Snake informed Chinching that it seemed a beast man had died up ahead. Upon closer inspection, they saw it was a tiger that had died. They saw people surrounding Parker, who was up in a tree. They were yelling at him to come down. The leopard was overjoyed to see Chinching. He leaped down from the tree. Chinching worriedly asked Parker what happened, how catching a little bird resulted in a tiger's death. Before Parker could answer, Rosa hurriedly arrived. Looking at her dead mate, she suddenly turned pale and asked her small follower who did it. The small follower pointed at Parker, claiming he did it. Rose's face suddenly darkened. She thought losing a mate was no big deal, but she couldn't lose face. She immediately ordered, "Beat that leopard for me." The crowd then angrily attacked Parker. The leopard wasn't to be outdone. His eyes filled with killing intent. "You want to beat me? It won't be that easy." Seeing this, Ching Ching nudged Snake's hand, asking him to help Parker. Without a word, Snake flashed forward. With just one look, he scared everyone into retreating, their bodies trembling. Rosa gritted her teeth in anger. She immediately called for a colleague, the slim Vincent, to step in. Vincent slowly approached. At this moment, Rosa secretly gloated, "Let's see how you fight me now by changing." Unexpectedly, Vincent stopped halfway. Instead, he turned and targeted Rosa. Rosa's face darkened. She was panic-stricken. Her angry hands trembled uncontrollably. She cursed at Vincent, saying you should take a look at himself in the mirror. Even if he helped by Ching Ching, she wouldn't be interested in him. Vincent ignored her words like they were farts. His tone was sharp. "If you dare harm her, I'll be the first to finish you off." The girl, just after her period, took the initiative. She asked to cuddle with Snake and make snake eggs. As soon as she said this, her face turned bright red. Her hands were shaking. She covered her face shyly, not daring to look at Snake. It was so embarrassing. At this moment, Snake was moved to tears. Chinching quickly went to comfort him, saying he wasn't a 3-year-old kid anymore. Why was he still crying? This made him cry even harder with snot and tears. He asked Chinching what she had just said to him, wanting her to repeat it. Chinching held his hand, her tone somewhat shy. "I said, let's have babies." But Snake pulled his hand away from Ching Ching, his face full of disbelief. He didn't want her to see him crying so much. Ching Ching grabbed his hand back and pressed it to her face. "I'm speaking from my heart. I want to have your babies." Snake finally beamed with a happy smile. He gently pulled her into his arms. The two couldn't help but start kissing. They finally merged into one, saying "I love you" to each other. Upon learning this, the little milk leopard was heartbroken. He even made turtle soup for Ching Ching to nourish her body. Ching Ching saw the leopard crying pitifully and felt sorry for him. She accepted his feeding, seeing this. Snake snatched the bowl from Parker's hand and told him to go fetch water. He would feed the leopard, watching them flirt. He became angry. "Damn stinky Snake. How dare you do that kind of thing with Ching Ching while I was away?" After Ching Ching had eaten and drunk her fill, Snake turned to go hunting to provide her with more nutrition. Parker saw Ching Ching's reluctant expression. He thought to himself, does she really like that snake so much? Then he shook his head, try not to think about it anymore. He moved closer to Ching Ching and grinned. "When you're better, let's have babies too." Afraid that Ching Ching wouldn't agree, the little milk leopard instantly turned into a pitiful sight. With tears in his eyes, he waited for a response. Ching Ching saw his pitiful look. She couldn't bear to refuse and said she would pair with him after she had Snake's eggs. Parker was immediately stunned, his eyes somewhat dazed. Disappointed, he slowly stood up. He turned and walked towards the door. The moment he stepped out, his whole body was trembling. The next second, he suddenly jumped up excitedly, happy like a child. He ran out quickly, wanting to tell everyone in the tribe about this good news. But halfway there, he suddenly stopped. He just remembered that Changing was alone at home. If other males kidnapped her, the consequences would be unthinkable. He immediately turned back to run home. Suddenly, a beastman ambushed him midway, slashing Parker's body fiercely. 3 deep, bloody gashes appeared on his back. Turning his head, he saw his Rose's little follower, Bard. Bard's face showed a sinister expression as he licked his hand covered in tomato juice. Seeing he was outnumbered, Parker could only turn tail and run as fast as he could. After chasing for hundreds of meters, the pursuers were still relentless. The leopard was running out of breath, and with his severe injuries, he was now dizzy and lightheaded. Running further would mean certain deaths. Unexpectedly, Bard caught up and taunted. "Stupid leopard, in such a hurry to see her by Ching Ching. She doesn't even like you. Why don't you give her to me?" These words thoroughly enraged the leopard. He wanted to tear Bard to pieces. "Show your filthy mouth. I'm gonna beat you up." The tension between them suddenly escalated. Although Parker knew he might die if he fought now, for by Changing's sake, he was willing to risk it all. He suddenly charged at Bard and they started fighting. Severely injured, he was quickly beaten down. At this life or death moment, Vincent suddenly appeared. leaping towards them and sending both flying with a powerful blow. Bard fell to the ground, trembling. Parker lay on the ground, a bloody mess. Suddenly, everything went black. The girl had agreed to have cubs with the little milk leopard. He happily ran home to tell his mother. Unexpectedly, he was ambushed. His life was in danger. Fortunately, Vincent saved him and brought him back. Ching Ching, worried he might die, asked Vincent what happened. After Vincent's explanation, she learned he was attacked by Rose's people. Ching Ching's face gradually darkened. That scheming woman was truly vicious. Vincent felt his males were too few and offered to be his protector. Ching Ching was about to refuse, but before she could speak, Snake accepted Vincent's request. She looked at the two powerful four-strike beasts in surprise. They actually reached an agreement since Snake needed to go hunting and the leopard was severely injured. Having a strong beastman for protection was ideal. Ching Ching also nodded in agreement. Looking at the leopards lying motionless on the ground, Ching Ching gritted her teeth in anger. Rosa had gone too far. Did she really have to kill Parker? Suddenly, she thought of the veterinarian Ha Wu in Camel Hump Valley. She immediately pounced on Curtis, asking him to turn into a snake. To take her to find the vet, this action made Snake blush shyly. Ching Ching was stunned seeing his coy expression. She waved her little fist frantically. This is no time for that, be serious. Let's go save Parker quickly. So Snake carried Ching Ching towards Camel Hum Valley, instructing Vincent to stay behind and look after Parker. The little leopard must hang on. Wait for me to come back. After a long time, they finally found a veterinarian. After the vet's treatment, Parker finally managed to save his leopard life. When he saw Bai Jingjing again, Harvey's face turned red, his heart pounding. He thought she was getting prettier and her freckles were gone. How nice it would be if I could be her male. At this moment, Ching Ching finally secretly sighed in relief. She asked the vet for some medicine to treat his external wounds. Harvey readily agreed and turned to go get the medicine for him. At this time, Snake was also going out to hunt. He told Vincent to stay behind and look after Ching Ching. After Snake left, Ching Ching asked Vincent about their tiger tribe. Vincent informed her that Rosa and his father, the Tiger King, along with the Wolf King and Ape King, were secretly colluding to take him down. Because of Parker's relationship with Bai Ching Ching, the leopards might be implicated. Jinking began to worry a bit. She asked Vincent why a four-striped beast couldn't be the Tiger King. Vincent was stunned for a moment, then said if Jinking wanted, he could be any king except the Turtle King. Jinking quickly shook her head and explained that wasn't what she meant. She wanted Vincent to better protect himself, even though he was very capable. 2 days later, Parker still hadn't woken up. Jinking lay on him with tears in her eyes, hoping he would wake up soon. She recalled the beautiful memories of being with Parker. Suddenly, she couldn't control herself and started crying loudly. She didn't even have the mood to eat the fragrant roasted meat. Her mind was constantly thinking about when the little milk bun would wake up. Snake saw her worried face and felt very distressed. He frowned deeply. Parker really deserved a beating, making Ching Ching lose weight from worry. The more Snake thought about it, the angrier he got. His tail slowly rose uncontrollably. The next second, he slammed it heavily towards Parker. Ching Ching was instantly stunned. Vincent was also dumbfounded. At this moment, the little milk bun saw stars all over the sky and miraculously woke up. Where am I? Why are there so many stars in broad daylight? Everyone was speechless. They didn't expect Parker to be awakened by a hit. They thought he was gonna die, but he was just asleep. The little milk leopard had been in a coma, barely alive. Unexpectedly, he was awakened by Snake's tail slap. He tightly embraced Ching Ching. Ching Ching suddenly noticed something was off about his face. Parker felt his scalp tingling under a stare. Did he become disfigured? It turned out he had upgraded to a stronger three-striped beast. Parker was overjoyed, fighting to the death for Bai Ching Ching. That battle with Bard had made him stronger. Snake unprecedentedly asked Parker if he needed help for revenge. The leopard was now full of confidence. I'm already a three-striped beast. Do you think I still need it? Ching Ching looked at the confident and spirited Parker. Her eyes were a bit dreamy. This Parker was incredibly handsome. It was the first time she had seen him so confident. Snake snorted coldly and turned to leave. He didn't forget to warn Parker not to get himself killed. But the next second, Parker turned into a childish leopard again. He stuck out his tongue at Snake. Chrome out, Snake, can you not curse me? Seeing this, Ching Ching quickly tried to smooth things over. She said Snake still cared about him. Otherwise, why would he want to help him get revenge? We're family. Hearing this, the leopard silently lowered his head. He's just afraid I'll die and there'll be no one to work with him to take care of the daughter. Seeing Vincent also at home, the leopard glared at him angrily. Curtis, this tyrant snake, actually let Vincent into the house. Looking at how he was caring for Ching Ching, he must have ulterior motives. So Parker stared at Vincent intently, not leaving his side. He asked why he saved him if he had any ill intentions towards Ching Ching. Vincent calmly replied, "You're Ching Ching's mate. If you died, she would be sad." Seeing Vincent care so much about her, Ching Ching felt a bit guilty, not knowing how to repay him. Thinking that Vincent was framed and had nowhere to go, she let him stay. But Vincent refused, saying he would leave once Parker's wounds healed. Ching Ching had no choice but to agree. A few days later, Parker's injuries had fully healed. As soon as he was better, he rushed to go out. He told Ching Ching he was going hunting. In fact, he was going to seek revenge on Bard. "Little wolf cub, just you wait." At this time, Rosso was unexpectedly pregnant with Bard's cub. Bard was leading everyone to find prey for him. Suddenly, they spotted a deer in the distance. Just as he was overjoyed, Parker deliberately sneezed loudly. The little deer heard the sound and ran away. Bard was furious and shouted, "Which stupid fool did that?" Everyone shook their heads, saying they hadn't made any noise. Parker laughed heartily in the tree. "That stupid fool is you, Bard." Bard gritted his teeth in anger. The clown was himself. The leopard leaped down, appearing in front of everyone. The transformed Parker was full of fighting spirit. "Long time no see, little man Bard." By now, Bart was in a cold sweat. "Three stripes, you've actually upgraded." Everyone else was also scared and kept backing away. Bart was still pretending to be calm. He said he wanted to fight Parker one-on-one. No one else was allowed to interfere. Then he recklessly charged forward. "Little leopard, I'm going to take your life today." What a loud boast. The next second he was lying on the ground, hit hard in the stomach by Parker. His pupils suddenly dilated. He fell to his knees immediately, seeing everyone rushing over. Parker knew it was better to run than face certain defeat, so he fled. The woman was pregnant with someone else's cub, but the leopard was so happy he was dancing. He turned to go hunting to provide nutrition for it. He immediately ran out the door, secretly rejoicing that after Kinking laid the snake eggs, it would be his turn. Unexpectedly, Parker was a big blabbermouth and told everyone in the tribe about Kinking's pregnancy. He even attracted the cunning Monkey King and Wolf King. Chinching hurriedly came out to check. The moment Chinching walked out, the Monkey King's eyes lit up, revealing a lecherous smile. He said this was the most beautiful female he had ever seen. Even mermaids from the mermaid tribe couldn't compare. Ching Ching felt a bit dazed hearing this, thinking the old man was flattering her too much. It turned out the Monkey King was also a veterinarian, claiming he came to check on Ching Ching's health. Just as he was about to reach out to check her pulse, suddenly a mysterious force hit his forehead, scaring him into a cold sweat, seeing his terrified expression. Ching Ching quickly asked if there was any problem with the baby in her belly. The old man laughed awkwardly, telling her not to worry, just marveling at the baby's incredible vitality. He also said Ching Ching had strong fertility and could choose several males. This angered the snake and leopard duo, who looked like they wanted to eat him alive. Curtis rudely scolded, "You old fool, you can leave now." However, the Monkey King ignored his words and even suggested other males bring food every day. Curtis was furious, his whole body emanating a terrifying aura accompanied by an angry roar. It shook the Monkey King to trembling, nearly falling apart his old bones. The Wolf King, seeing the situation was not good, wanted to rush in, but was loudly stopped by the Monkey King, telling him to stay at the door and not come closer. Then he left with his tail between his legs. Halfway down the road, he suddenly fell to his knees. He violently coughed up a mouthful of old blood. Seeing he was so severely injured, the Wolf King wanted to return to settle scores with Snake, but was stopped again, saying the Wolf King was no match for Snake. His face gradually became serious. This was the strongest beastman he had ever seen in Beast City. The Wolf King was also shocked. Could that snake be even stronger than the Tiger King? Wang Zai said even the Tiger King was no match. Unless the two kings joined forces, it would be best to win over by Ching Ching. Otherwise, they could only nip it in the bud and eliminate them all. A month later, Bai Jingjing's belly was visibly swollen. The leopard was still arguing about who Ching Ching would sleep with tonight. Snake suddenly insisted that Ching Ching sleep with him. The leopard couldn't beat him, so he could only angrily question why. Snake informed Parker that Ching Ching was about to give birth. The leopard was instantly overjoyed. He immediately got up to boil water. That night, Changing's stomach hurt so much she was howling, constantly calling for Snake and Leopard. Snake quickly came over and took her into his arms. The leopard was also anxious like and on a hot pan, thinking she had already given birth. He hurriedly came over to ask how many were born. Ching Ching was in a cold sweat from the pain. In a weak voice, she said, "Silly leopard, I just woke up. Suddenly my stomach hurts a lot. Did you think giving birth was as easy as wetting the bed?" Then she asked Parker to find a veterinarian for her. Hearing that a vet was needed, the leopard's tears flowed uncontrollably, thinking she was having a difficult labor. Only then did Ching Ching realize that here, vets were only called for females having difficult births. The leopard gradually relaxed, so it wasn't a difficult birth. He thought that scared the life out of this leopard. Suddenly, Ching Ching started screaming loudly. Snake and leopard were both worried and excited. Ching Ching was finally giving birth. 19 snow white eggs safely arrived. The leopard looked envious at the eggs in Snake's hands. His heart was full of anticipation, wondering when he could have his own leopard cubs with Ching Ching. Ching Ching looked at the egg she had laid, feeling very strange and surprised. Are these really my children? She gently poked one with her finger and could actually sense a small hand poking back from inside. Moreover, these eggs could move. Perhaps they were calling for their mother inside. Ching Ching finally accepted it. These were all her children. 3 little leopard cubs surrounded the girl, wanting to nurse. She quickly covered her chest and kept backing away. Parker glanced at where she was covering. The next second, he was violently slammed against the wall. Bad leopard, you can't. Where are you looking, you pervert? Parker covered his red and swollen leopard face, pitifully crying that he didn't mean to. At this moment, a mocking voice came from afar. Isn't that the ugly one stolen by the snake beast? Ching Ching turned to look, puzzled by the sound. It turned out to be Parker's pursuer, Yodera, again. She was mockingly saying that if Parker had been her male, he would have had a litter of cubs by now. The mouse was furious upon seeing Yodera. Ching Ching also noticed Parker's disgust towards this woman, but when Yodera saw Ching Ching, she was seething with hatred. How did this ugly one become so beautiful? Parker immediately counterattacked, stating that he liked Ching Ching not for having cubs. Unlike some people who were ugly themselves but called others ugly, Eudora was shaking with anger, cursing Parker for not taking her seriously. She then turned and fled, not forgetting to shout, "Just you wait, let's see how long you can be smug." Seeing her behavior, even the people in the tribe couldn't stand it. They criticized her, saying, "You just had a litter of cubs and your tail is already up in the sky with arrogance." At this moment, Vincent suddenly appeared, seeing Bai Ching Ching, whom he had been thinking about. Vincent's tiger face immediately turned red with excitement. He immediately went up, wanting to hug her. The tall and imposing Vincent scared the nearby females, making them tremble and sweat. They ran away with their cubs. Ching Ching walked up and greeted him. This made Vincent's heart bloom with joy. He stuttered, "Long time no see." Seeing this, Parker quickly rushed over and pulled Ching Ching into his arms. Jealousy, he asked Vincent if he had time to help look after Ching Ching because he needed to go hunting. Vincent agreed without hesitation. This was the opportunity he had been dreaming of. He was secretly overjoyed. I can finally protect Ching Ching again. Today, hail suddenly started falling from the sky. Ching Ching had just stepped out the door. Suddenly, a huge chunk of ice fell down. It was heading straight for her head. Luckily, Parker pulled her back in time. He held her tightly in his arms. Otherwise, her head would have been cracked open. Ching Ching was stunned, looking completely at a loss. Vincent also quickly rushed over upon hearing the commotion. He secretly sighed in relief when he saw Ching Ching was unharmed, but his expression suddenly became serious again. He asked Curtis where that snake was not protecting Ching Ching but fooling around somewhere. Ching Ching quickly waved her hands. She explained that snake had to hibernate and incubate eggs during the cold season, not fooling around. Hearing this, Vincent didn't pursue the matter further. He clenched his fists and secretly vowed to protect Bai Ching Ching with his life. Just after the hail, heavy snow suddenly fell the next day. Ching Ching was jumping around happily like a child. Parker took her to the place where the king was to get some warming jam. By coincidence, they ran into Ching Ching's suitor. Shio and Parker glared at each other. Parker was about to carry Ching Ching inside, but Shio stopped him. It turned out only females were allowed inside. Ching Ching was a bit worried, fearing she might be devoured alive by wolf cubs if she entered the wolf's den. After repeated assurances of her safety, she was told there were many females inside, not just her. Parker also said not to worry, he would keep watch outside. If anything happened, she should call for him. Only then did Ching Ching tremblingly follow Shio inside. Unexpectedly, her nemesis Rosa was also inside. She mocked Ching Ching, berating her for stealing her man and being shameless. Ching Ching didn't let her off easy either. She angrily retorted, "Wasn't it you who drove Vincent away? He can be with whoever he likes. What's a teat?" At these words, Rosa's minions bared their teeth at Ching Ching and started to attack. Seeing this, Shio was instantly enraged. He gave the wolf cubs a fierce glare. The cubs were immediately terrified, clinging to Rosa's legs and trembling. Rosa, however, looked at Shio with contempt, telling him not to waste his efforts, saying Bai Ching Ching would never be interested in him. She mocked Ching Ching for accepting all sorts of riffraff around her, calling her shameless. Suddenly, she threw a bowl of hot soup at Bai Ching Ching. Fortunately, Shio shielded her in time, holding her in his arms. The scalding soup splashed onto nearby females. They howled in pain. Shio's back was also red and swollen, but he didn't care. He only worried if Bai Jingjing was all right. Jingjing was very angry and was about to curse. Suddenly there was a loud crash. Parker had kicked the door open, shattering it. He rushed and roaring, "Who dares to bully my Jingjing? I'll smash them." He immediately came over to ask what happened. Learning it was Rosa who threw scalding water at his beloved woman, Parker's eyes flashed with rage, nearly biting off a few teeth in anger. He was about to teach the hateful Rosa a lesson, but he was stopped by the king. Otherwise, Rosa would have been beaten beyond recognition. The tension between them instantly escalated. The little milk leopard picked up the girl's lace handkerchief and sniffed it hard. Then he covered her smelly feet. He hesitated to speak, his eyes somewhat dreamy. He was already eager to have cubs with Bai Jingjing. Jingjing lowered her head and pondered for a moment, feeling that the leopard had indeed sacrificed a lot for her. She agreed to his request. Parker's little heart was about to explode with excitement. He picked up Bai Jingjing right in front of Vincent. He even told Vincent to boil water for Jingjing's baths. Vincent responded with a reluctant okay, feeling both anxious and envious. At this moment, the leopard's dream finally came true. His suffering had paid off. He merged tightly with Jingjing. The next morning when she woke up, Jingjing found leopard markings on her body. She immediately had a bad feeling. If Snake discovered this, he would beat the leopard until his bottom bloomed. Suddenly, Vincent's voice came from outside the door, frightened. Jingjing hurriedly covered her chest with a blanket, wondering if he had heard everything that happened with Parker last night, covering her blushing face. She wished she could find a crack in the ground to hide in. Jingjing asked Vincent if he had heard any sounds last night. To her surprise, Vincent's brain was as dumb as the leopard's. He said he hadn't heard anything, only going to sleep after they had stopped making noise. Hearing this, Jingjing couldn't help but spit in his face. Wasn't this a case of protesting too much? Fortunately, Parker rushed in, breaking the awkward scene. He was holding the body of Little Bird Fur. Vincent informed them that Little Bird Fur had been bitten to death by Rosa's cubs. Learning that Rosa was behind this again, Jingjing was so angry she smashed the table. Parker was also angered and wanted to duel with Rosa's male. Jingjing was confused. Little Bird Fur was killed by Rosa's cubs. Why duel with her male? Couldn't they just ask for compensation? This comment instantly made both the tiger and leopard freeze with speechless expressions. Parker asked Jingjing where she learned such brutal words. They either drive them away or duel. There's no talk of compensation for killing, but Jingjing didn't want Parker to fight again. She was also worried he might lose to Rosa's male, but she couldn't swallow this anger. Clenching her fists, she trembled with hatred. This grievance absolutely couldn't be left unresolved. She immediately burst into loud tears, determined to make Rosa compensate for her little bird cat. Seeing this, Parker quickly came forward to comfort her, saying he would go find them for compensation right away. He then turned to leave and find Rosa, instructing Vincent to take good care of Jingjing. Unexpectedly, as soon as he found Rosa, he was mocked. She asked if Bai Jingjing was a starting ghost, reincarnated just to bite him to death. Can't even afford the meat of a little bird? What a pitiful creature. Then she threw Little Bird for his corpse back to Parker, telling him to take the little bird and leave quickly. Parker's face gradually turned cold. He wanted to beat them up badly. But remembering Jingjing's words, he didn't want to fight and hurt people again. He could only swallow his anger. He returned home dejectedly, carrying Little Bird Fur. Jingjing immediately bounced over to greet him. Seeing Parker's unhappy expression, she asked if Rosa refused to compensate. Afraid of worrying Jingjing, the leopard immediately smiled and gently stroked her little head, saying Rosa had agreed to compensate. Jingjing had already seen through everything, so she didn't ask further. Early the next morning, Jingjing dug a trap in front of the bird coop. It turned out she had raised another little bird. Knowing Rosa would instruct her cubs to bite it to death again, she set up a trap to catch the wolf cubs. Sure enough, at night, the wolf cubs came to attack the little bird again. The next second, they heard the wolf cubs' screams. Parker immediately went out to check. He returned to inform Jingjing that Rosa's wolf cubs had fallen into the trap. They both burst into laughter, finally feeling some relief. But Jingjing was still worried the wolf cubs might be hurt and asked Parker to release them first. Parker, having endured so much from Rose, couldn't let her cubs off easily. It was already merciful not to cook them. He then comforted Jingjing, saying he knew what to do and the wolf cubs would be fine. Jingjing could only sigh helplessly and let him handle it. But in the middle of the night, they were suddenly awakened by a series of roars. Feeling something big must have happened outside, she quietly went out to check. The scene before her eyes made her break out in a cold sweat. She saw pairs of fierce eyes staring at her intently. Her body trembled as she stepped back several steps, almost falling to the ground. Fortunately, Parker came out in time to support her. It turned out Rosa and her group had come looking for their cubs. They glared fiercely at Bai Jingjing, roaring at her loudly. They even said they would have the king sell her off. But Jingjing wasn't one to be intimidated. She angrily retorted that their cubs tried to steal others' little birds and fell into the pit themselves. Who could they blame? Hearing this, the female bystanders also expressed extreme disgust towards Rosa, pointing and criticizing. Rosa was instantly infuriated, left speechless by the rebuke. Her whole body trembled as she threatened that she wouldn't let Bai Jingjing off easily. The tiger and leopard immediately stood protectively in front of Jingjing, itching to give Rosa a beating. Jingjing wasn't to be outdone either. She pushed past the tiger and leopard to confront Rosa. With a cold smile on her face, she challenged, "Bring it on if you dare. We'll see who won't let who off easily. You steal others' little birds and still think you're in the right." At this moment, everyone looked at Rosa with contempt. With so many mates, she couldn't even provide food for her cubs and how to steal from others. Rosa could only turn and flee in embarrassment. But a few days later, her cubs came again to kill Jingjing's little bird. Seeing the successive deaths of her little birds, Jingjing's eyes instantly welled up with tears. At this moment, Curtis suddenly appeared. He snatched up the wolf cub and opened his huge, bloody mouth. With one bite, it was crunchy. The taste was truly sour and refreshing. Everyone was instantly shocked into stunned silence. Jingjing froze on the spot, Snake even burped, everyone watched with their mouths agape. Jingjing wanted him to spit out the wolf cub, but Curtis explained that snakes don't regurgitate. This made Jingjing cry anxiously. The wolf cub could probably only come out of snakes, but now Curtis stroked her little face. He softly comforted her, saying he'd take care of everything, told her not to worry, who told them to dare bully his female. Jingjing cried even louder, hearing that Snake had swallowed Rose's cub. What could they use to return it? As soon as she finished speaking, a roar was heard. Rose had already come to their door. She angrily shouted for them to hand over her cub. Snake's face darkened. Jingjing was very worried. She thought he should have a way to deal with it. Unexpectedly, Snake casually threw out a sentence. "I swallowed the wolf cub. What do you want to do?" Jingjing, standing nearby, was so anxious that tears streamed down her face. Rose had frozen in place. She couldn't believe this fact. Her whole body was shaking. Her male charged towards Curtis with murderous intent. He raised his fist, wanting to smash Snake's head. Unfortunately, his coolness lasted no more than 3 seconds. He was grabbed by the neck. With a crack, he was sent to meet his great-grandmother. Seeing this, Rosa was overcome with anger and wanted to rush up for revenge. This was the first time she cried for her male, only because the one who died was him, the strongest among all her males. While her other male actually blamed Vincent, asking if he was just going to stand by and watch his own female being bullied. At the mention of Rosa, Vincent became angry instead. He said he had long been driven out of the tiger tribe by Rosa, but he hadn't stood idly by. He had been standing by changing side. Seeing the wolf beast left speechless after being rebuked, Rosa finally came to her senses. She told her male to quickly go find her father along with the Beast King and Wolf King. She roared that they would cut Bai Jingjing and the others into pieces. Snake had swallowed the woman's cub in one gulp. All the Beast Kings rushed over upon hearing the commotion. Seeing the reinforcements, Rosa cried even louder. She quickly went to her father, crying and complaining that Curtis had swallowed her cub alive. She demanded revenge. The Martial King was shocked. He asked the Beast King to uphold justice for them. But the Beast King seemed a bit intimidated by the powerful Curtis. Snake impatiently told them to stop the nonsense. If they wanted war, they should just bring it on. At this moment, Rosa took the opportunity to fan the flames. She said all this was Bai Jingjing's fault. If it weren't for her, they wouldn't have attracted stray beasts. She even asked the Beast King to sell her off. At this point, both sides became tense. Snake roared angrily, saying if they wanted to fight, then fight. Damn it, they talked too much. The Martial King again requested the Beast King to order an attack. The Beast King pondered for a moment. He stated that Curtis was a stray beast, and this was Bai Jingjing's territory. This matter was not under his jurisdiction. Hearing this, Rosa was instantly dumbfounded. She rushed forward to argue with the Beast King. "That despicable snake beast ate my cub. Are we just going to let it go like this?" The Beast King could only sigh. He told her to keep a better eye on her cubs in the future. Rosa's father was also helpless, who told him he was just a Beast King's lackey. At this moment, Rosa was already frantically grabbing her head and hitting it, crying with snot and tears. Suddenly, her face turned cold and terrifying. She was so angry her whole body was shaking, pointing at Bai Jingjing. She roared that she must make her pay, blood for blood, then she turned and left. After everyone had gone, Curtis informed Jingjing that the snake eggs had hatched into baby snakes. At this moment, he was both excited and thrilled. He quickly ran back home to see his children. But when he saw those baby snakes, he was so scared his legs went weak and he trembled. But then he thought these snake babies were all his children. He shouldn't be afraid, so he slowly approached them, wanted to hug them. The little snake babies looked at Bai Jingjing in confusion. They thought he was trying to catch them. They suddenly opened their huge mouths, instantly bristling. Bai Jingjing was so scared, he kept backing away. He stumbled and almost fell. Fortunately, Snake caught him in time. Curtis flicked out his long tongue. Frowning, he angrily rebuked the snake babies in snake language. "This is your mother, you scared him, I'll spank your bottoms." The snake babies instantly became docile, obediently surrendering. Chinching was a bit sad. She asked Snake why they didn't recognize their own mother. Curtis quickly comforted her, saying the snake babies had just hatched. Once they got familiar with her scent, they would naturally recognize her as their mother. Only then did Ching Ching reluctantly breathe a sigh of relief. After spending some time together, the snake babies finally accepted him as their mother. Vincent looked at their happy family. He felt inexplicably sad. He thought it was time for him to leave. He was just Ching Ching's protective beast. There was no reason for him to stay any longer. But when he said goodbye to Bai Ching Ching, his heart felt indescribably painful. Ching Ching was also a bit reluctant to part, but Vincent wasn't her mate. She couldn't let him stay forever. Vincent, heartbroken, spoke with a trembling voice. He only hoped to take away the animal skin Ching Ching had made for him. Bai Ching Ching nodded frantically, agreeing to his request. At this moment, Vincent finally squeezed out a sad smile. Ching Ching silently lowered her head, not knowing how to repay him for this period of care. The days had just settled down for a few days when the snake and leopard duo started arguing again. The reason was that the leopard wanted to take Ching Ching to Bee City to get seeds, while Snake wanted her to stay and help feed the baby snakes. The two instantly became confrontational again. Ching Ching stood in the middle on the verge of tears, not knowing how to choose, but thinking that if they had seeds, they wouldn't have to worry about not having rice to eat. Jing Jing could only entrust that smelly and tough tyrant snake, saying he would come back quickly after getting the seeds. While Curtis said he wanted to bring the baby snakes along, Jing Jing thought it might be dangerous to bring the baby snakes, so she asked Snake to stay and look after them. After saying that, she left holding Parker's hand. Snake felt extremely lost. His hand gripping the basket was trembling. At this moment, a baby snake poked out its little head, calling Daddy. Curtis immediately flung the basket away. The baby snakes' heads were buzzing from the impact. The little snakes were so scared they fled in all directions, calling for their mother. But just after dropping the basket, he regretted it. He picked it up and held it to his chest like a treasure. Fortunately, it wasn't broken. This was woven by Changing herself. At this time, Parker and Changing were collecting seeds. Seeing that these seeds were actually wheat, Ching Ching was overjoyed. Suddenly, she heard a baby crying behind her. Looking back, she saw a baby breastfeeding. Ching Ching sighed that the females here were too uninhibited, so she told Parker she wanted to go out for some fresh air. But just as they reached the door, they ran into a male tiger beast from the tiger tribe. He walked past them looking fierce and menacing. Ching Ching felt a strong sense of pressure but didn't know danger was about to strike. The tiger beast suddenly turned around. He tightly covered her mouth. The girl was tightly choked by the neck. He wanted to suffocate her. Despite her desperate struggles, it was useless. At this critical moment between life and death, the snake pattern on her foot suddenly emitted a golden light. It immediately transformed, locking around the tiger beast's neck, accompanied by a cracking sound. It sent him to meet his maker. This was the power bestowed by Snake. The tiger beast instantly fell to the ground dead. "I actually killed someone." Bai Ching Ching had killed for the first time in her life. She was trembling all over with fear. At this moment, a group of beast men rushed up from behind. Wolves in front, tigers behind. Bai Changing was surrounded with no way to escape. Since death was certain either way, she might as well make a last-ditch effort. Grinning her teeth, she broke through the crowd and ran towards the city wall. She recklessly jumped down from 100 meters high. When she landed, she was miraculously unharmed. This time it was the power bestowed by Parker. But this also caused her some after effects. Her whole body went limp and she fell to her knees. At this moment, beast men wielding spears charged towards her. They wanted to take advantage of her weakness and finish her off. As the spear was about to pierce through her, Ching Ching closed her eyes tightly, only able to await her fate. Am I really going to die? Maybe it's for the best. Perhaps after death I can return to the human world. But heaven didn't want her to leave this strange world. The Wolf Cup show appeared just in time to save her. He dragged her onto his back and quickly retreated, but the pursuers were relentless, determined to take Bai Ching Ching's life. Meanwhile, Parker also sensed that Ching Ching was in danger. When he found her, he discovered she was being hunted by a group of beastmen. The tiger beast chased them for over 1,000 miles. By now, Sho was gasping for breath, exhausted. If they kept running like this, he would surely die. At this critical moment, a cry came from the sky. It was the black eagle Moor. He quickly swooped down, using his claws to grab the two. He flew away swiftly. The tigers could only howl in frustration. At this time, Snake arrived, hearing the commotion. Everyone scattered in fear, Moo also handed by changing over to him. Seeing this, the leopard also hurriedly ran over. Pointing at Shio lying on the ground barely alive, he assumed he had kidnapped by Chinching. Chinching quickly explained that Shio had saved her. She pointed at the tiger beast in the distance. Hearing it was those tigers who wanted to kill her, the tiger beast trembled in fear. Curtis's face immediately darkened, accompanied by a murderous aura. The eagle handed Chinching to Parker to take care of. He suddenly charged towards the tiger beasts, scaring them into fleeing for their lives. Ching Ching asked Parker to put her down. Looking at Shio, who was severely injured for her sake, she felt extremely guilty just as she was about to reach out to check Shio's injuries. She was stopped by Kai, who said there was poison on his wounds. She couldn't touch him. At this moment, Shio was barely breathing. His eyes revealed reluctance and attachment to Ching Ching, knowing this was the last time he'd see the person he loved most. Suddenly, he coughed up a mouthful of blood. Tears welled up in Ching Ching's eyes. She immediately said to take him to find a bees doctor. However, she has stopped her, indicating it was too late. The poison had spread throughout his body, even if it got the antidote. Before he could finish, Ching Ching interrupted him. Tears were streaming down her face uncontrollably. She insisted she would find the antidote to save him. She immediately ordered Parker to go find the king for the antidote. Muir then said he could fly faster, telling Parker to stay and take care of Ching Ching while he went to search for the antidote. After a long while, the antidote was finally brought back. As Ching Ching was applying the medicine to him, Shio, with his last breath, told Bai Jingjing a huge secret. He said all of this was orchestrated by Rosa, who wanted to kill Ching Ching. Hearing this, Bai Jingjing froze. Does this woman not rest until she sees me dead? At this moment, Shio's breathing suddenly became rapid, his body shaking uncontrollably. Using all his strength, he uttered his last 3 words, "I love you." As soon as he finished speaking, the poison took effect. With a cry of agony, Shio finally closed his eyes forever. His only wish was to meet Bai Jingjing again in the next life. By now, Jingjing was in tears, feeling extremely guilty. She cried, asking why good people don't live long while the wicked live for 1,000 years. Seeing Chinchin cry so heartbrokenly and knowing Shio died to save her. Curtis's face gradually turned cold. Some people indeed needed to be dealt with, so he single-handedly stormed into the Tiger tribe's castle. He even killed the Tiger King with his own hands, but couldn't find Rosa anywhere. Surprisingly, Rosa had already been imprisoned in the dungeon by the Yuan King. It turned out the mastermind behind everything was the Yuan King. Rosa was just his pawn. He had incited her to kill Bai Jingjing. Rosa then begged her father, the Tiger King, to intervene. As a result, her father died at Curtis' hands. This was all part of the Yuan King's trap. Not only did he use Curtis to eliminate the Tiger King, but he also wanted to exterminate Bai Jingjing and her group. At this moment, Rosa recalled Vincent's words about the Yuan King wanting to kill him. She had thought it was a joke at the time, but it was all true. Suddenly realizing, "You old bastard, you're so evil. You want to have Wancho City all to yourself." By now, Rosa had awakened to the truth. She was nothing but a puppet being manipulated. She regretted treating Bai Jingjing that way. She regretted driving Vincent out of the Tiger tribe, but there's no medicine for regret. It was all too late. The Yuan King ordered subordinates to cut off Rosa's and the other prisoners' tongues and sell them to poor areas. Hearing this, Rosa instantly collapsed to her knees, her heart turning to ashes, then screams of agony echoed through the dungeon. Meanwhile, Bai Jingjing had learned the cause of Shio's poisoning. It was due to the Yuan King's arrow poison technique. He was definitely involved in this matter. So without hesitation, she lit a torch, not wanting this poisonous tree to harm anyone else. She set fire to the tree. At this moment, the Yuan King suddenly appeared. The scene before him shocked him. He wondered if Bai Jingjing knew this was a poisonous tree. Seeing the old Yuan King finally show his face, Bai Jingjing smiled as if she had seen through everything. "What are you surprised growing such a poisonous tree? Who are you trying to harm?" At this moment, the old man panicked and tried desperately to defend himself. Jingjing, seeing his hypocritical behavior, couldn't be bothered to argue with him. Looking at the nearly burned-out poisonous tree, she asked if they should break off a branch and let the Yuan King taste what it's like. This almost scared the old man to death. Fortunately, the Wolf King brought Rosa out just in time, which helped divert attention from him. By now, Rosa's tongue had been cut off and her body was covered in wounds. She wanted to expose the Yuan King but couldn't make a sound. The Yuan King, in front of everyone, pinned all the crimes on Rosa. But Chinching had already seen through his schemes. With Curtis and Vincent by her side, she wasn't afraid to confront the Yuan King. Rosa couldn't kill me. I'm afraid the most disappointed person is you, Yuan King. The old man was somewhat panicked. He didn't expect Bai Jingjing to be so clever. He had no idea that Jingjing was human with intelligence many times higher than theirs. At this point, the old man was still trying to defend himself. He blamed the poisoning and framing of Shio, the attempt on Bai Jingjing's life, and all the crimes on Rosa. He even claimed he had no reason to want to kill Bai Jingjing. Jingjing fearlessly retorted, "If he dies, Curtis will definitely go to war with the Tiger tribe. Wancho City will lose several four-striped beasts. Wouldn't that bring you one step closer to having Wancho City all to yourself?" Yuan King, the old man, was left speechless, breaking out in a cold sweat. Just as he was about to step forward to argue, Curtis immediately moved to protect Zinking. With clenched fists and eyes full of rage, he was about to finish off the old man and send him to hell. But Zinking stopped him, telling him not to be rash. When Yen Shio refused to betray the Yuan King even in death, there must be a reason, because Wancho City needs a leader with spiritual power. The old man laughed triumphantly, stating that trying to kill him would be opposing the entire Wancho City. Jingjing pointed at the Yuan King and shouted, declaring that once a suitable leader for Wancho City was found, it would be the Yuan King's time to die. The two sides had completely fallen out. At this moment, the old man still spoke shamelessly, telling Jingjing to go home quickly, focus on having and raising cubs, and that he was in charge of Wancho City. Jingjing snorted coldly, "Then let's wait and see." With that, she turned and left. After the Tiger King's death, Tiger City had fallen into chaos. Jingjing asked Vincent curiously why these tiger beasts were fighting. Vincent explained that they were competing. After the old Tiger King's death, a new Tiger King must ascend to the throne. Jingjing believed Vincent was the strongest in the tiger tribe and wondered why he wasn't competing. Hearing this, Vincent immediately got excited. With a roar, he rushed in. In no time, he defeated all the small fry and became the new Tiger King. A few days passed. Jingjing was changing clothes. The snake saw everything and was very surprised. Jingjing noticed the snake's expression was a bit off. She looked at the leopard beast mark on her chest and seemed to understand everything. Suddenly panicked, she immediately shouted for Parker to run quickly. Before the leopard could escape, the snake had already appeared in front of him, full of killing intent. He opened his bloody mouth and roared. With a fierce swing of his tail, he sent Parker flying. Fortunately, the leopard managed to jump out the window and escape in time. The snake also chased after him through the window. Jingjing watched in terror, fearing that Parker would be killed by Curtis. She quickly got dressed and chased after them. Just as Parker was about to be swallowed alive by Curtis, Jingjing shouted, "Stop, don't leave me alone." Only then did the snake obediently come to her side. Parker finally breathed the sigh of relief and quickly ran away. It turned out that only the beast mark of a liked male or female would appear on one's chest. Curtis became jealous and started causing trouble for Parker. But Jingjing explained that she also liked snake, and the reason his mark wasn't on her chest was because he had already forcibly placed his snake mark on her foot earlier. Curtis was suddenly stunned. He couldn't believe it all. He had heard that snake beasts couldn't be liked by females. Moreover, Jingjing was so beautiful. Those pursuing her were the most excellent males. How could she possibly like a stray beast? But Jingjing poured out her heart to him, saying Snake was so good to her. Every time she was in danger, he would appear. Gradually, she fell in love with him. Snake immediately hugged Curtis tightly from behind, expressing that he truly liked him. Snake finally understood his feelings. He held him tightly in his arms. Jingjing looked at Curtis seriously, telling him not to fight with Parker anymore. They should unite to take down the bad old man, the Yuan King. Curtis's eyes showed disdain for the Yuan King. He said if Jingjing wanted to play, he'd play along with her. Jingjing was speechless. This guy made it seem like taking down the Yuan King was as simple as stepping on an ant. The females here only had their period once a year, but by changing had hers every month, this troubled her greatly. The leopard would caringly nuzzle her face. Snake also rubbed against her forehead, telling her to rest well. At this moment, the leopard was overjoyed. He shouted that he was finally going to be a father. Even Vincent came rushing over upon hearing the news. He invited her to move to the Tiger Tribe Castle, worried that the Yuan King might harm her. Jingjing immediately shook her head and refused. She said with Curtis and Parker around, she should be safe. However, Curtis agreed to move to the Tiger Castle. He said he sometimes goes hunting and he couldn't trust that stupid leopard. Later, they arrived at the tiger tribe castle. At this time, a tiger beast brought 2 bags of seeds. The leopard happily carried the seeds, ready to plant them in the field. Ching Ching wanted to go along even though she was on her period, but Parker told her to rest well at home. Bai Jingjing could only use her ultimate move, acting cute and coquettish. Who could resist that? He had to agree to her request. Ching Ching was so happy she danced with joy. Snake, feeling sulky, said he wanted to go too. He directly dumped all the baby snakes out of the basket. Seeing this, Ching Ching's jaw dropped. What kind of father are you? She immediately bent down to comfort the little snakes, checking if they were hurt. She criticized Curtis for being an unfit father, but he said this was normal for snake beasts. He claimed that when he was that small, he already had his own territory. Chinching turned to look at Curtis, that cold-blooded animal. The snake tribe's way of raising children was really simple and brutal. She could only reluctantly accept this way of raising children. Human children should be raised by humans. It would be terrible if he raised them wrong. At this moment, the males were working hard, tilling the land. Suddenly, a few small birds flew in from afar. Chinching worried these birds would steal the seeds. Parker told her not to worry, saying he had a solution. Then the silly leopard just sat down at the edge of the field. Ching Ching was confused and asked Parker if he was planning to sit there until the seeds sprouted. By then, he might sprout before the seeds did. The leopard nodded firmly, vowing to live and die with the seeds. Ching Ching was stunned, realizing he was serious. No wonder Parker had said before that many males died because of farming. Ching Ching smiled and said she had a solution. The leopard looked skeptical, thinking she was joking, but not long after, she had made a bird net using tree bark. Everyone praised Ching Ching's ingenuity, saying she was not only beautiful but also smart. They said they'd be willing to live 10 years less if they could be her mate. A few days later, the skies suddenly poured down heavy rain. Fortunately, Bai Jingjing had already instructed Vincent to have people dig ditches in the field to drain water. Otherwise, all the rice would have been ruined. This heavy rain swallowed up all the tribes near Wancho City. The beast people fled to the tiger tribe castle nearest to Wancho City. Changing was puzzled why so many foreign beast people suddenly flooded into the castle. After Vincent's explanation, she learned that many tribes had been submerged by floods, so they were temporarily sheltering them. Chinching also saw many familiar faces. The beast Dr. Harvey slowly walked towards her. Every time he saw Bai Jingjing, he would blush. Just as she was about to go over and say hello, suddenly a thin person rushed out, urgently asking Harvey to save someone. It turned out that the patient was Bai Jingjing's nemesis, Eudora. This shrew, even while sick, didn't forget to curse her male, saying she was freezing to death and demanding he immediately find dry clothes. The male, hearing this, tightly hugged Eudora to warm her up. But unexpectedly, his kindness was met with ingratitude and she slapped him hard. Then she stomped on him furiously and shouted loudly, "What kind of place is this? Such a big castle and not even a dry piece of clothing." Vincent suddenly gave her a death glare, accompanied by an angry roar, "Keep making noise and I'll throw you out. How dare you cause trouble in my territory?" Eudora instantly turned into a shrinking turtle, shaking all over and wetting herself in fear. The girl finally agreed to have cubs with the little milk leopard. The leopard was overjoyed. At the same time, it also provoked Snake's jealousy, who wanted to beat Parker until he vomited. Early the next morning, Snake burst through the door. The scene before him made his face darken. He saw Parker and Chinching in the same bed. Suddenly overcome with jealousy, he told him to quickly get out and go hunting. The little milk leopard could only scamper out immediately. Snake brought changing water to wash her face and said that food would be ready soon, he'd bring it to her right away. At this time, Eudora came to cause trouble again. She wanted to go to the best place in the Tiger Castle, but she was stopped by the guards. They said the upper area was the Tiger King's private territory. Outsiders were forbidden to enter. However, Eudora was a shrew. She stubbornly insisted on going up. The guard warned her again, saying if she kept making trouble, they'd throw her out. Eudora snorted coldly, having no choice but to give up. But when she saw Bai Jingjing was actually up there, she immediately threw a tantrum, angrily cursing why Bai Jingjing could go up but she couldn't. Seeing this, Jingjing walked right past her without even glancing at her. Yotaro was so jealous, she gritted her teeth in hatred. She turned and mocked Bai Jingjing, saying she would accept any cat or dog just to live in a good place. She also said Vincent had a bad temper and was ugly, yet Jingjing could accept even him. It was truly a disgrace to females. Bai Jingjing became angry. How dare she badmouthed Vincent in his own territory? Wasn't she afraid of being thrown out to feed the tigers? At this moment, Eudora was still pretending to be calm, but inside she was actually panicking. She said she was a female. What could they do to her? Ching Ching stuck out her tongue at her, saying indeed they couldn't do much. And most, they could make her sleep in the woodshed with rats. After all, she wouldn't die from starting for a few days. Hearing this, Eudora couldn't keep up the act anymore. She trembled in fear, cold sweat streaming down. She then fled with her tail between her legs, saying by Ching Ching, "You just wait." At this time, Vincent had someone bring food to Ching Ching. Looking at the delicious meal with both meat and vegetables before her, Ching Ching beamed with joy and thanked the tiger beast. Hearing that thank you, the tiger beast was stunned. His little heart went thump-thump, suddenly exploding. Bai Jingjing quickly told him to go busy himself, not to lose himself at the sight of a beauty. After the tiger beast left, she finally sighed in relief. "My damn charm, I hope there won't be any more suitors. Otherwise, the house will be turned upside down." Chinching brought food for the three little milk leopards. They looked at the meat in the bowl, tears uncontrollably flowing from their mouths. Just as they were about to eat, their mother stopped them, saying, "All of you stop. If you eat Chinching's food, what will she eat?" Chinching said she was already full and even took a piece of meat to feed them. She also handed a piece of vegetable to the little leopard's mother, which made her awkward on the spot. These people are carnivores. How could they eat vegetables? Seeing she wouldn't eat, Chinching ate it with relish, saying it was heavenly delicious and she should try it. Seeing Chinching eating with such enjoyment, she hesitated for a moment. Finally, she couldn't resist and took a bite. The next second, she shook violently, wanting to spit it out but couldn't. She found it so unpalatable it was hard to swallow. Ching Ching yanned she was about to go back to rest, but Fui asked her to stay and sleep. The leopards also didn't want her to leave. Ching Ching glared at Fui, feeling this woman must be hiding something from her, so she asked what was really going on. The little leopards were clinging to her, not letting her leave. "Was that your doing?" Fui laughed awkwardly, saying she wanted the little leopards to be Ching Ching's mates. Hearing this, Ching Ching was speechless. She said it was too absurd. She was over a decade older than them. By the time they grew up, she'd be an old auntie, so it was impossible. However, Fui said an old auntie was better than having no partner. Being able to mate with Ching Ching would already be a blessing, right? The little leopard cubs howled in unison, strongly agree. Ching Ching instantly turned to stone, frozen in place. This little girl was already almost 100 years old, but looked like an 18-year-old flower because she had eaten the crystal stone from inside a giant beast. But she hadn't been able to eat crystal for a long time. If she couldn't eat it again, she would gradually age. However, the Ape King, that bad old man, had ulterior motives towards her, just because the girl's appearance looked too beautiful. Meanwhile, Bai Ching Ching was squatting by the field, watching Vincent harvest rice. She saw him pick up a bundle of rice and grip it in his hand. Then he quickly brushed it at a speed as fast as lightning. The wind blew by Ching Ching's face, causing her hair to suddenly stand on end. It made her body unbearably itchy and she kept scratching. Vincent was very worried and hurriedly asked what was going on. Ching Ching was also at a loss. Her body was suddenly covered in red rashes. Seeing this, Parker ran over in a panic. He picked up Ching Ching and immediately went to find a beast doctor. The beast doctor was also startled when he saw her. It was just a small allergy, but they acted like she was about to die. He immediately put garlic in a bowl, crushed it, and was about to spread it on Ching Ching's body. Ching Ching was suddenly stunned with a bad premonition. The beast doctor said garlic could disinfect, so he needed to put it on her face. Ching Ching was so scared she cried loudly, clinging to the leopard. She didn't want to smell like garlic. She called for Vincent to come save her quickly. Vincent felt heartbroken seeing her in such pain. He was about to reach out and pull her away. But after careful consideration for Ching Ching's health, he ultimately held back. By now, Ching Ching was covered in garlic, crying with snot and tears. Then she ran away angrily. After everyone left, she quietly peeked out her little head. Seeing no one around, she plunged into the water, washing off all the garlic thoroughly. After cleaning up, she ran back to find Snake. But as soon as Curtis saw her, he immediately ran into the house. Ching Ching chased after him, asking why Snake ran away upon seeing her. Curtis remained silent, only helping to lick Ching Ching's wounds. Ching Ching told him not to worry, it was just a skin allergy and not serious. She also wondered curiously why Snake hadn't transformed into human form. As soon as she finished speaking, Snake's body suddenly burst, accompanied by cracking sounds. Ching Ching gently stroked the cracked parts on his body, asking with concern what had happened to him. In an instant, Snake suddenly opened his huge blood-red mouth. A loud roar scared Ching Ching, making her stumble backward, trembling. She almost fell on her bottom. Then he wrapped her up with his snake tail and pushed her directly out the door. With a bang, he shut himself in the room. It turned out Snake was about to shed his skin. Afraid of hurting by Ching Ching, he told her not to come in. Knowing the truth, Ching Ching was very surprised. She told Snake to take his time, saying she would always wait outside. And so she waited from day to night. But there was still no sound from inside the room. Chinching was afraid something had happened to Snake and couldn't help shouting into the room. The next second, a hand suddenly grabbed her, pulling her into an embrace. Looking at the transformed Curtis, Bai Jingjing almost didn't recognize him. She blinked, drooling, and became infatuated. How did your face change? Oh my god. You're so damn handsome. Snake asked why she was staring at him like that without even blinking. Then he nuzzled against Ching Ching's face, making her heart pound. Then they started kissing passionately. The snake beast was just too handsome. Bai Ching Ching was drooling at the sight. She jumped up and gave Snake a big kiss. Seeing this, the leopard became jealous, sourly asking Ching Ching to kiss him too. Ching Ching laughed awkwardly, telling him not to make a fuss. She would be embarrassed with so many people watching. At this moment, the leopard noticed the garlic on Ching Ching was gone. He said he would have to apply garlic on her again later. Ching Ching quickly sought help from Curtis. Only then did Parker notice Curtis's face was different. He thought to himself, how did this stinky snake become more and more handsome? Did he eat a crystal stone to please by changing? He secretly vowed to hunt down a giant beast, obtain a crystal stone, and become more handsome than Curtis. Snake saw through the leopard's thoughts and teased, "Want to surpass my looks? You can probably only achieve that in your dreams." The leopard angrily retorted, telling Snake not to be smug. One day he would outshine him. Chinching was tired of watching him argue. She asked Vincent to grind wild millet into powder and call all the females in Wancho City over. Vincent was very puzzled, asking Chinching if she had something in mind. Chinching was full of fighting spirit. She declared it was time to teach that bad old Yuan King a lesson. Then she told Parker to start a fire. She wanted to make noodle soup with wild millet for those females to taste. The females also came, drawn by the smell. They asked why they were called here. Ching Ching explained that she had ground wild millet into powder and then cooked it in a noodle soup, so she called them to try it. Hearing this, everyone pointed and commented, saying it must taste bad when cooked this way. But Ching Ching didn't mind, saying just you wait and see. Then she asked Parker to bring a bowl of cooked millet. The aroma immediately filled the air. The females looked at the millet soup noodles in the bowl. Tears couldn't stop flowing from their mouths. This aroma spread throughout Wancho City, making everyone incredulous. Oh my god, this smell is too fragrant. Is it really made from wild millet? Ching Ching gave Vincent a look hinting that he could start. Vincent understood immediately. With a wave of his hand, he told everyone to line up. Each person could only get one bowl. Everyone immediately swarmed to line up and receive their share. After eating, they even licked the bowls clean. The females felt like they were in heaven after eating. The taste was simply divine. Ching Ching was secretly delighted. As long as she could capture the females' stomachs, they would surely listen to her in the future. Let's see how that bad old Yuan King can compete with me. As for the Yuan King, he also took a bowl of millet soup noodles made by Bai Jingjing. It turned out he was taking it for the female he was pursuing. Surprisingly, the female the Yuan King was pursuing looked many times younger than him. One might mistakenly think the Yuan King was an old ox eating tender grass. In fact, she was already almost 100 years old, even older than the Yuan King. But because she had eaten a crystal stone, she looked like she was 18. The woman irritably took the bowl from the old man's hand. At first, she thought it would taste bad, so she only took a small sip. But the next second, she started wolfing it down like a starving ghost reincarnated without any later-like manner. After finishing, she suddenly smashed the bowl to pieces. She scolded the old man, saying his words were like farts. He promised to dominate Wancho City and give her crystal stones, but now she hadn't seen a single one. If he couldn't get the crystal stones, you old bastard will never be my mate. The Yuan King confidently stated that he would definitely succeed. A few days later, Parker and others went to pick grapes in the wild. Chinching was eating with relish. Suddenly, Parker's hand reached for a little face. His eyes looked at by changing somewhat dreamily. It made her face instantly turn red with steam coming out of her head. She said the leopard was so shameless. Vincent was still watching beside them, however, Parker didn't care. He said that last time Changing didn't get pregnant, maybe because Curtis was there, he was too nervous. So this time they shouldn't go back. Hearing this, Vincent got up to keep watch for them outside. Then Parker carried Changing into the small woods. After returning to Wancho City, Changing thought about what happened with Parker in the small woods. She got angry, her little face blushing with embarrassment. She was speechless and ignored Parker when he called her. Turning to look at Parker, she coldly snorted, "I don't want to talk to you now. It's so embarrassing." She tossed her head and walked away angrily. A wisp of her fragrant hair hit Parker's face. It made his little heart suddenly go thump-thump, instantly exploding. Have I really become a love-brained idiot beast? At this moment, Ching Ching was already lying on Snake's body, crying. However, Curtis somehow noticed something unusual about her. He immediately pushed Bai Ching Ching away, asking what she did with Parker outside today, learning that they went into the small woods. Snake's face instantly turned gloomy. He was shaking with anger all over. He angrily cursed that stupid leopard for being incredibly foolish. A mere third-class beast dared to do such things in the wild. Weren't they afraid of accidents happening? Chin Ching was grabbed painfully by Curtis. She said with Vincent's protection, nothing would happen. Parker heard Ching Ching's cries and quickly rushed over. He scolded Curtis to stop immediately. Hearing this, he said it was all his fault for forcing Ching Ching. If Curtis wanted to hit someone, he should hit him instead. These words enraged Curtis. Stupid leopard, you're asking for death. Sure enough, the leopard ended up with panda eyes. If not dead, he lost half his life. Ching Ching was also fed up with Parker's stupidity. She told him not to speak, but he insisted on taking responsibility onto himself. The little milk leopard was teary-eyed and pitiful. He said he just wanted to have his own little leopard cubs with Ching Ching. Seeing Curtis' snake babies so big, he was very envious. By Ching Ching sighed helplessly, she said haste makes waste and they would have their own leopard cubs in the future. The little milk leopard wanted to have cubs with Ching Ching. As a result, he was beaten up by the snake. He immediately turned into a national treasure. Leopard eyes instantly became panda eyes. The snake angrily ran to soak in water outside, leaving the leopard to work miserably by himself. Chin Ching found the snake and played in the water with him. The poor little leopard was very angry seeing this. He angrily accused Ching Ching of favoritism. Wouldn't this stinky snake have to work and complain the water here? Ching Ching hurriedly explained Curtis had been running outside all day and discovered major news. The river water was blocked from flowing towards the tribe. This would cause a drought. The consequences would be severe. After hearing this, the leopard could only pitifully pick rice grains. Peeling them one by one, it was ridiculously slow. It took several minutes to peel just one grain. He even had the nerve to happily sing a love song. After finishing, he carefully put them in a small bowl. Ching Ching was speechless seeing this. The bees here were incredibly stupid, so she smiled and told Parker that she could peel a big bowl in less than a minute. After saying that, she immediately brought a mortar. Parker looked very worried, fearing she would crush the rice. But in less than a minute, Ching Ching had turned a bowl of rice grains into white rice. The leopard's face was full of shock and curiosity. This was way too fast, so he happily ran back to tell everyone about this method. Meanwhile, Wancho City was in chaos due to the river's flow being cut off. Everyone was calling for the Yuan King, that big bluffer, to show his magic and find a way to save them from this drought. At this moment, the Yuan King was extremely nervous, sweating profusely. He had no magic at all. It was all bluffing. He closed his eyes tightly, pretending to be using his powers. Suddenly, he opened his eyes wide and blurted out two words, "Drink blood." Everyone was shocked after hearing this. They had stopped drinking raw blood hundreds of years ago. Now the Yuan King was saying drinking blood could solve the problem. Jing Jing was also surprised. She didn't expect this old man to be so clever. Drinking animal blood could indeed absorb some water, but even elementary school students knew this common sense. However, the beast here had such low IQ that they were easily fooled by the Yuan King. As the weather became drier, the river was nearly dried up. This caused by changing to go a month without bathing. Her whole body had gone sour. This made her teary-eyed and very uncomfortable. Snake kept comforting her, saying when Parker returns there would be water to bathe. Just as he finished speaking, Parker rushed in carrying a bucket of water. Ching Ching was suddenly overjoyed. Finally, there was water to bathe. What followed made her want to cry. This wasn't water at all, it was clearly just a bunch of sticky mud. Ching Ching felt like dying at this moment. She almost wanted to shave her head bald to cool off. The poor leopard sighed helplessly. This mud was what he had risked his life to get. Any later and he wouldn't even have been able to get muds. Parker suggested letting the mud settle. Then Chin Chin could drink it. Bathing during the rainy season was impossible. Chin Chin lowered her head in deep thought. If she drank all this water, what would Parker and the others do? At this moment, she suddenly thought of an idea. She asked Curtis to find a place surrounded by mountains on all sides. There should be a heart-shaped clearing and dark clouds in the mountains. Snake turned to leave immediately, about to go search. Suddenly a head popped out unexpectedly, saying to let him go. Curtis frowned tightly and turned his head sharply. He swung his snake tail fiercely towards Muir. Fortunately, he dodged in time. Otherwise, it would have made a loud sound. Seeing this, Ching Ching hurriedly stepped forward to stop it, telling Snake to calm down. Then she asked Muir why he appeared here. Muir replied that he had been lying up there the whole time. Hearing this, the two were speechless. Their faces turning black, so this bird had already built a nest up there. The black eagle ignored their expressions and volunteered to go find the place Ching Ching described. With that, he was about to take off. Ching Ching nodded in agreement. He immediately flew up into the sky. Soon Moore found a place surrounded by mountains on all sides. Ching Ching called Vincent to lead everyone to the foot of the mountain with a wave of her hand. She instructed everyone to prepare to roar at the sky. In an instant, a series of deafening roars erupted. The huge sound waves echoed across the entire mountain ridge. Bai Ching's ears were nearly deafened. At this moment, the males were still roaring with all their might. Ching Ching clasped her hands tightly, praying for the rain to come successfully. Suddenly, a raindrop fell on her tender little face. Heaven rewards those who persevere. Finally, it started pouring rain. Everyone danced and cheered joyfully. A smile finally appeared on Ching Ching's face. Without water to wash her hair, it was about to get moldy. Vincent and the others were very curious, asking Ching Ching how she came up with this method. Jingjing thought carefully, these bees people were so stupid. How could she explain it so they would understand? So she pulled out a small blade of grass from the ground. Everyone was suddenly stunned, looking confused, not understanding what she meant. Then she flicked the grass and droplets of water instantly fell off. At this moment, they finally understood the huge roar shook the dark clouds.